So this front side kind of helps you how to graph exponential functions. We have a, b, x, h plus k. Remember, your h is your horizontal shift, and it's always the opposite when you're writing your graphing it. And your k is the same number, and it's also your horizontal asymptote. So we have like this equation, this a is my a and my initial value. This is my b, which is my factor or my multiplier. This number right here is my h, which shifts, in this case, 4 to the right, and -1 shifts down. Here in the example, they start with the parent function, and here they're saying that the parent function includes the a's. That way, so you don't have to do 3 tables. So these values they're using 0 and 1 for your x. They plug in 3 into this equation and they get 3. Plug in 0 and they get 3. Plug in 1 and they get 6. And then what they're doing is, because they have a right shift of 4, they're adding 4 to your x's. So 0 plus 4 is 4. 1 plus 4 is 5. And then they're subtracting 1 from the y's, or this column right here. 3 minus 1 is 2. 6 minus 1 is 5. And this is the table they are graphing. So if you notice, this point right here is going to be 4, 2. And this one's 5, 5. They only did 2 points. We do 3. We do the -1, 0, and 1. So they just did 0 and 1. Remember, we do -1, 0, and 1 for our table. So when you get to do your problems in the front, you'll see 3 numbers. So let's start. I'm going to do this example with you, and then example 2, 3, and 4 you do by yourself. So right here we have, this is our A, initial. This is our B, our factor or our multiplier. Our numbers that we're going to use are -1, 0, and 1. Okay, when we plug this value in our calculator to the power of -1, remember, use your calculator, we're going to get 1. We plugged in 0 for our x value right here, and we get 2. And then we plug in 1 into our x value, and we get 4. Okay, now what we're going to do is, this right here is our h value, and it's going to be the opposite. So we're going to add a -3 to our table. Okay, so when we do that, and that's going to add a -3 to our table for the x values. So that means we are going to subtract 3 from our x values. So these x values that are in this box are going to be 3 less than the original box that were these. So we're going to have -1 minus 3. We're going to get a -4. And then we're going to have 0 minus 3 gives us this number, so it's going to be -3. And then 1 minus -3 is going to be -2. And then these y values do not change because we didn't have a k. So these are going to stay the same. So we're going to keep the 1 and the 2 and the 4 just like we did on the Desmos. Okay. And since, again, we have no k value, that means our horizontal asymptote is going to be 0 still. So our horizontal asymptote is still y equals 0. So that's going to be here on the x-axis. That has not changed. It's still a horizontal asymptote, y equals 0. But now the table that we're going to graph, remember, is going to be the second one. And the reason we're going to graph this one is because this one has the transformation with the 3. So it was shifted to the left. So that means our points are going to be at -4 and 1. We have the first one. And then at -3 and 2. And then -2 and 4. And then remember, it gets very close to our asymptote, but never crosses it or touches it. And we get something that looks like this. So what I need you to understand is that this H value does two things. One for the table and one for the graph. So for the table, you add or subtract that value to the X table. X value on the table. That's one of the things you have to do for the table. For the graph, because in this case, it shifts or moves. Let's just do moves. Moves the graph left or right, depending on the number. In this case, because it was -3, this also moved it to the left. On the graph. Okay. So we also have to figure out, is this a growth or decay? Well, because our B is greater than 1, it's a growth. So that's what we're going to write. It is a growth because our B is greater than 1. Okay, which is our factor or our multiplier. Next, we have, what does the H do to the graph and the table? Well, we literally just talked about it right here. Okay, so, but now we're doing specific. What does the H value, the one we have, our H value was H is equal to -3, because remember, it's going to be the opposite. It moves the graph left 3 units. And it moves it left 3 units because it's negative. Also, H is equal to -3 needs to be subtracted to all X values on the table. To get our new table values. Hope this helps. Now remember, you're responsible for example 2, 3, and 4, and after that, you need to work on missing assignments.